Hello, welcome to the instant reaction. Another Everton instant reaction. Another one leaving. Pricey, I've got to stop getting attached to these people because last week we done a Richarlison leaving instant reaction, and today possibly you might make me even think this is even worse once we get into the weeds here. We're reacting to the news that that Duncan Ferguson as tonight left Everton Football Club for probably the last ever time. I don't really see him coming back unless we're in the absolute mire and he's doing good elsewhere. Myself, Ian Mills, and Andrew Price of the Blues is always talking about matters here. Pricey, what was your reaction? What was your instant reaction when you logged on the social media, you logged on the WhatsApp or the Sky Sports News? Duncan Ferguson has left Everton Football Club this evening.
Not surprised, really. To be honest, I think I felt it coming. I think a bit. I'm not upset, to be honest. I think it's the time's right for him to go. I think for him personally and for Everton as well. I think you've got to have that cut off now. I think he's done his bit for us. He's stepped in a couple of times when we've needed him to. He's always been there or thereabouts for the last few managers. He was sort of, when Lampard came in, you seen him take more of a backward step, I thought.
Yeah,
he weren't the one on the touchline with Lampard in his ear. He was the one a bit further back. Obviously, I imagine he's still good round to have around the changing room and around the training ground. But I think, if I'm being honest, I think I did expect him to go this summer. And I do think it's a good move for both sides as well. I do hope, he said, it's to go into management and to pursue that. And I do hope there is a job for him somewhere else, or he does get that opportunity to manage somewhere else, because I do think he'll be an half-decent manager. Just the short time he's had with us and the way he speaks. And obviously to stay along with all those managers that we've had, and he's always been there or thereabouts. He must have something as a coach. He must have. You can say we haven't had a particularly good spell while he's been there, but he's a coach. He's not a manager. He has to follow orders to a certain extent. So I think he must be a good coach to be in there. So I do hope he's given an opportunity. I think he's earned it. It'll be lower down, maybe League One, League Two. But he's earned that chance to go and get some. And I hope he gets a decent club with a decent chairman who can really give him an opportunity to be the manager he wants to be.
I do want to get into, over the next 20 minutes or so, how we feel, and maybe you can roll the years back in our own minds and watch them as a player and a young boy. But to stick on the theme there, you're talking about the current, the now, and you thought it was the right time. There's arguments. I was looking on social media today, and there's arguments that maybe this is too late in the day for Ferguson leaving. That there may have been an element of he should have gone a lot earlier. He should have went with Marco Silva. He should have went with Carlo Ancelotti. Maybe even with Rafa Benitez. What is your thoughts on how long he's been here as not only a coach and an assistant manager? Has it been too long?
If he would have left at all those points you've said, no one would have argued. They would have said, right, the new manager comes in, he's having a clear out, and he's bringing in his new staff, and that's fair enough. He's doing it. So no one would have argued, and I wouldn't have argued about that either. But as I said, he must have something about him as a coach. He's developed Calvert-Lewin. That's just off the top of my head. He's one person you can say he developed under Ferguson. There must be others. He's good with the young kids as well. I understand, the lads coming through into the first team, Tom Davis, John Joe Kenny, all those type of people. So he must have something about him. Is it too late for him, age-wise? What is he, 50 odd, isn't he now?
I think he's early 50s, but the reason I'm asking you this, and you can carry on, just to tag in, I do feel that now he's been part of failure at Everton for maybe too long.
Yeah, but he's not the manager though, is he? He's not the manager failing. Do you know what I mean? And he'll be looked on by a lot.
Do you know what I mean by saying that? Like he's been.
I know what you mean. He's like the he's like the.
It's always him. It's always him. Allardyce comes in, it's him.
Yeah.
Human's there, it's him. Silver's there, it's him. Lampard comes in, it's him.
But I don't think he's had a say. I wouldn't class him as having a say on tactics or how we set up or how we play. Maybe he's had, as I said there, he's helped individuals and he's had a role in that type of area. But I don't think he's had that say on the first team and how we play, because they played so differently with different managers that he couldn't have had much of a say. But he's definitely, Ancelotti, there's a rumours he wants to take him to Real Madrid, so he must be a decent coach. And he must be someone who you can trust and you can look to. And look, he's been fantastic for Everton, and a coach who's coached at Everton. He's been assistant manager, he's been manager, caretaker manager, he's been a coach that long. they'll find a place for him. There'll be a club who's made up with that, who says, right, he's got that experience of working with those first team Premier League players. We want him. We want his experience. We want his talent in our thing. I get what you're saying about us failing, but we haven't failed under Ferguson. I think we failed probably under Mashiri and under Kent. Right, that's what we failed under. You can't say we failed under Ferguson. And some managers like to have that connection between the past in there. You know, Man United do, Liverpool have done it in the past. They like to have that face there. Maybe that face is now maybe a Leighton Baines who's going to take that mantle on. He's going to be that person. And Ferguson's time's up. But I do think his time was up. As I said, if he would have left all those points you said before, I wouldn't have moaned. And I do think it's time he went. For his sake, and as I say, for Lampard bringing his own ideas in as well.
One word you did say there when you're talking about the relationship with the players like Calvert-Lewin is trust. And I think us as fans, even though I've came on here and I'm talking about him being part of, you know, what's going to go down as a bad era in the club's history. Let's get it wrong. 2014 till 2022 is probably one of the worst eras I've probably watched, minus 1 or 2 6-month periods. But we as fans, there was a moment that let's go to December 2019. We trusted him, didn't we? We were sitting 18th at Christmas, that lot across the park. I just put 5 past us at Anfield, and things were looking really, really bad. And he comes in, and the fans, if you get beat 5-2 at Anfield, and then you go into a Saturday morning game at Goodison, it should be dead. There was one reason that game wasn't dead, the game against Chelsea. It was him, and he had us there, didn't he? It was that level of trust, and that maybe... I don't even think love is too strong a word. It's probably too weak of a word. Us as fans, we got him and he got us, even as a interim manager, didn't we?
Yeah, and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people were just happy that he's one of our own. He's Scottish. He's not a Scouser, but he is. He's an adopted Scouser. One of our own in charge at a time when we needed them to be. I mean, going back to the Villa game this season, when he came in for that game, there was people who wanted to give him a permanent job. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember what your opinion was. What was on it? Was you one who would have had?
Look, I'll make no bones about it. Regular viewers of the Everton content on here know you and Judgy are much more level-headed than I am. I was up to there with the Benitez stuff, and him even coming in then made me feel a lot better. I think we all met up for a bottle of beer, didn't we? I think a free bottle of beer on Duncan. When he was doing his poor stuff behind the bar, and it made me feel better knowing that, I don't know, that Raff, the big bad red had gone, and it was Duncan Ferguson, even for a week or so. And I don't think he'd feel that, or I wouldn't have felt that if it wasn't him. If it was, I don't know, if it was Koeman's brother or something, or Archie Knox or something, just taking the game for a week, I just felt. And the relationship between club and fan is all about how you feel. It's emotion, and I don't know. He got me somehow. He just got me. Even going back to January this year, the Aston Villa game, I wasn't clamouring for him to be the full-time manager. I certainly wouldn't clamour for him now to be the full-time manager if the worst would have happened and Frank would have walked or whatever. I don't think he's quite ready, but there was just that feeling for me with him, even as late as January 22.
Yeah, the good thing about when he came in, those two, well, good thing and bad thing, but we were desperate as a fan base. Yeah, we were made up. Duncan's there. We were desperate, and it was backs against the wall, and we needed someone just to come in. It weren't about tactics. I mean, he kept it as simple as you can ever keep it against that in that Chelsea game.
Yeah,
that's all we needed. We needed someone just to come in, understand what we wanted, backs to the wall, just grind out them results as you know, as robust as possible without no magic, no great football, and he was perfect for them. Didn't quite happen against Villa, you know, this season. I think Gerrard came out and said he knew what was coming a little bit more than what Chelsea would have done at the time. But so that we needed them for those, and we needed that, and that's why we love him, because he stepped up to exactly what we wanted. And I just wonder what is Lampard connecting the fan base when Benitez went, how much he leaned on Ferguson there, and how much Ferguson was in his ear and said, "Look, this is what we need to do. We need to make sure the fans are on board. These are the ways that I would do it if I was you." And maybe that we'll never know. But I think, and if that did help, and if that's what he's done, I think he's played his part this season, and he can go head held high. Because if he stayed longer now, there would be his star might wane. Not that he's got a big star or whatever, but his star might wane a little bit, and it might just become that where we get a bit impatient with him as a coach, and we're like, why is he there if it doesn't go well? So I think he's gone head held high. He's done his bit. He served his purpose, and he can go, and as I say, hopefully he'll get a job that he deserves.
Before we do talk about the legacy that he leaves as Duncan Ferguson, never mind just as the interim manager or the coach, as Duncan Ferguson. Before we get there, do you think there's a manager in there who can go, as you've just said there, maybe down to the Championship, maybe as down as League One, and cut his teeth down there? Do you think Duncan Ferguson's got that in him to go somewhere that's not Everton Football Club and go and be a success?
Yeah, I can see him being either in Scotland or a lower league team. I can, because from what I've seen about as a manager, he's not tactically, he's not Guardiola or anyone like, it's basic, isn't he? Attacks, and when you go lower league, although the standard has improved from years gone by, it's still that basic playing percentages, getting people behind the ball, making sure people are motivated. It's that type of management and man management, and I think that's his strength, is the man management side of it. So I can see him going down, and I can see him being an asset at a lower league team. As I say, or in Scotland, and I can see him doing well there. What about you? You thinking he will, or?
I don't know. Do you know what? The thing with Ferguson is I've always felt that he just wanted Everton. I've never ever felt like that relationship with Scotland. You mentioned Scotland there, and I think if you go back to how he perceives he was treated, and yet he got double jeopardy and stuff in the 90s, and he retired, didn't he, from Scottish international football, and he didn't speak to the media, and I think he probably holds a lot of that still, and probably rightfully so. I don't see him going back into Scotland. I just don't see that. That then leaves a team who will take a bit of a gamble. Do a team who want to get promoted from the Championship at the first time of asking take a gamble? I don't think so. So you go lower than that. I don't know. I really don't know. I've always seen Ferguson with Everton, and that's trying to look through Ferguson's eyes. He was so connected to this football club. Don't forget, when he retired from playing, he went missing for 4 or 5 years, and I think me and you went to a night, didn't we, with Paul Cronin, and Duncan said, I just couldn't get Everton out of my system. I had to go away from football to get this football club out of my system, and even then, I came back. I don't know. I really don't know, and I hope he does. I would love to see Duncan Ferguson go and do a job at a Championship club and bring them up, like what Silva's done at Fulham. Or I'd love to see that, but I don't know. I think the thing with Ferguson was the connection. I think it was the Everton thing with Ferguson.
I can't see him going to a good Championship club. I don't think he's got that credibility to do that. I think he'd have to start lower and maybe work himself up. But for him to leave, you don't know what's going on in the background and whatever. But he must have had offers over the years to know himself that he's confident he can get a job somewhere. So he must have had, maybe he's had interviews, but he's definitely must have had offers that makes him think I can get a career away from Everton here. I can do it, because he hasn't said he's leaving football or he's leaving coaching or anything. He said he's going to be a manager. So there must be something, an iron in the fire, or at least something that makes him think that the people want him. And I think a lower end, League One team, League Two team, maybe lower end Championship. I can't see a Fulham. I know they've come up now, but I can't see one of those teams in Norwich or anything. Yeah, going after someone like Duncan Ferguson, unless he earns his stripes.
Is there a more Everton thing than us being bottom in November? Frank gets the bullets, and in comes Duncan Ferguson. Is there a more Everton thing?
I know. Well, hopefully we won't ever be in that position, but I mean, you do know if you do need him, and he hasn't, he will answer the call. You know what I mean? That's guaranteed. If all else fails, I'm not in a bad way against Ferguson, but if all else, you can give him a call and he'll answer the call, won't he? Which is loyal.
Stops the Allardyce shout in November, doesn't it? Anyway, look, we'll probably close it out. I started the video by saying, and I probably stick by this. This is probably the last time that Duncan Ferguson leaves Everton Football Club. Despite the banter there, I don't see him coming back. I think he goes and is a success and stays being a success, or he goes and fails, and that's probably the last you'll see him, apart from maybe an ambassador role. But that, if I'm right, then that's the end of Everton and Duncan Ferguson. So it's saying that out loud to me, and I get that there's fans who look back at the Ferguson, era as a player and say he scored 1 and 3, 1 and 4 wasn't good enough. It was relegation battle after relegation battle. If you're 36 and you're 37, like me and Pricey, it's all we had. That generation, it's literally all we had to turn up and watch that big man up front play for the shirt. I've got stories I could tell on the podcast about meeting him personally and what what a top guy he was away from the pitch as well. But when I say that, Pricey, when I say that out loud, it's the end of Duncan Ferguson and Everton. Can you sort of rewind back to the younger Pricey and how you felt about him on the pitch?
I think I've loved Everton players all my life, but I think he's the only hero I've had, like the only Everton hero, where he's been my hero, name on the shirt, posters all over the place, and he was the one. And you go back, obviously, the derby, the 95 derby, when he scored that goal. That was instant then, and it was all our age, and year above, year below, whatever. If you're our age, that was instant for us. 9-year-old, 10-year-old, that's it. Then he's your hero. You've seen him. And then he's, the Man United game, and just all these little moments that when he's needed, he can step up. And you say you're right. Why could he get up for those games and he couldn't get up against the lesser teams? But he was just Everton through and through. And getting a tattoo and seeing him on the back of the Echo with the tattoo that time just sticks out. Just the little stories that you'd hear from like people around the club who he'd been the Winslow after the game, or he'd gone for a pint and he joined in with the fans and all that. He was just one of us. And he's my Everton hero in my life. There's been nobody like that. And it's good. And I always had it in the back of my head, one day he would be Everton manager. I think when he came back as a coach, you sort of think one day he'll be the manager. But obviously it's not meant to be. But I loved him. But I think you were a bit similar, was you? Was you the same as me, same age group and all that, obviously?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like, just to go a little bit into the weeds, me and Pricey never went to the same primary school. We went to the same secondary school. So we weren't really mates until 11 or 12. But Price is talking there, being a 9-year-old, and anyone who grew up back in the early to mid 90s in Evertonian, it wasn't good. Like, you think it was bad, you think it's bad now, but it wasn't good back then. But I remember that Monday Night Football, just speaking about there, where standing on my seat at the back of the Gladys Street when Everton are kicking towards Liverpool in the rain and the dark, and this big man just puts it in, and a full time he turns around like that.
Yeah.
Just go, I'm in love. Like, whoever you are, I'm with you 100%. I remember, like, all St. John's Market had all these black t-shirts, like Big Dunk and all that, and then he had the blue nose for the cup final. What 9 or 10-year-old is not gonna latch onto that?
No. And it was the football side, but it was also the hard knock side of it, where it was like, you just loved it just as a kid. It was just like, it was just brilliant. He just died for it, mate. He was class. He still is class. He's looking at his interview just tonight. He's just class, isn't he?
Do you remember how gutted he looked when he signed for Newcastle?
Yeah, in
the press conference. I think he'd done an interview with the old. Do you remember the old paper Evertonian?
Yeah.
And he'd done this like goodbye, and he was like, "You can design me." He had a tattoo. He said, "I'm going to keep the tattoo." And I think when he went on his little holiday in 1995, I know you've got a story about that, but there was all that connection, weren't there, where he was still talking through certain things, and people were writing to him, and he was writing back. And I know you've got a great story about his return from his holiday in the reserve game, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I went to Arnott Street, which is just obviously by Goodison. So one day our teacher come in and said, "You want to be a ball boy tonight at Goodison?" We were all like, obviously shouting for it. Yeah, we'll be ball boys, And it was his first game back to it was Newcastle at home in the reserves.
Yeah.
So we all put our name down. We had to I had to phone my mum and dad and all that in the day. And he was like, "Right, we're going to be ball boys." And we were in like the little ball boy changing room before, and Ferguson walks in, this big towering fella. We're all like, "Duncan," he's just hugging us and all that. He's like, "That's right, boys." I'm like, "Oh, that's right, Duncan is right." And then obviously when I'm watching it, there must have been about 15,000, 20,000 people come to watch him just on his return. And obviously we were ball boys. I think we won in the end as well. It was brilliant. Oh, it was magic. And then since then, obviously you love him anyway. And then he just goes up tenfold, and you're like, wow, he's amazing. So yeah, I've loved him anyway. But yeah, that's my one story about him, which I'll always remember.
You just don't get that, do you? And I'll give you one of mine. I've said this on the old podcast before we went video. But someone asked a story about favourite off the pitch moments. So I was 10. April 1995, and all that I had my appendix out in there for a couple of days, and that was the time that the Everton team come round to give Easter eggs and stuff, and I had my appendix out, so it wasn't serious. I was in a ward 2 days, and I had my Everton posters around me bed. My mum and dad put my Everton posters up around, and the nurse comes over and says, "The Everton team are coming in today." Like, so I've got my old programs that I've been collecting and ready to see the Everton team. Sitting there waiting. My mum and dad weren't there visiting hours. It was like certain times. I was sitting there on my own on the bed, and then the nurse comes over and says, "We're really sorry, but the Everton team are just going to go and see the kids in certain wards, they're not going to come up here. They haven't got time to do it. And I cried my eyes out, literally like I stood on glass. I couldn't hold it in. Cried and cried and cried. Didn't want to speak to no one. Drew me curtains. Go away. Go away. Don't no one speak to me. This is not fair. This is not fair. Half an hour later, the team nurse comes over and goes, "Come out with me, Ian." So she takes me, got me dripping all that. Proper misery, the sad story. She takes me into the corridor. There's big Duncan Ferguson. And she says, "We told the Everton team that there was little Evertonian upstairs crying their eyes out and he wants to come and see you." Man, if I wasn't in love before that, and I just looked up and he signed me, whatever, he said, "Get back to Goodison soon, wee man, you'll be on the pitch with me one day." And you just think, good God, like what an individual. And I know, I'm sure there are loads of players like that. I'm sure loads of fans have got stories, especially as kids, but good God, that's my story. He was everything at a certain age. And when the Reds came into school and you know, they might be playing in Europe or they might be, the dads are taking them to a certain European game or whatever, all we had was see you in a derby and Duncan Ferguson will get you. And he did, didn't he? Most times he did. So people who do look back and he throws stats at us, yeah, fair enough. He certainly wasn't Alan Shearer. He wasn't even a top 5 or 6 striker, but he was everything. And I think now, the fact that relationship is finally over. Like there's been a few times where it's stopped and started. I think it's a big night. And I'm going to raise a glass. Pricey got my glass aside today. I'm going to raise a glass to the big man. And I hope if he's watching or his family are watching, please communicate to them, myself, Millsy and Pricey. We absolutely love you, big man. We wish you nothing but the best. Pricey, do you want to end the podcast for us on your final thoughts on Everton moving forward now? There's rumours that Anthony Barry from Chelsea might be coming in, and you know this is a Duncan video, but we have to move forward, don't we?
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think it's right that we do as well. As I said, the time's probably right for him to go on both sides. Bringing in his own staff is a good sign for me. I think when a manager comes in and they bring in their own staff, the people they can trust, not that they couldn't trust Ferguson, but the people they've worked with before and they can trust. I think that's always a good sign. And it goes in hand in hand with, Rhino leaving just towards the end of the season, Farewell coming in, trying to reshape it a little bit, the new structure. So I think it's all going in, touch wood, the right direction in that sense. Anthony Barry's got a great reputation working with young people, young players, should I say. And he comes with that credibility. So it's exciting times in that sense. And I just hope, said on the previous podcast at the end, the end of the season review, I just hope Lampard now has got that chance to sign a couple of players he wants and implement that structure that he wants to implement there.
Absolutely. Myself and Pricey alongside Judgy and the 3 Reds will be back with our regular videos very, very shortly, probably the week before the season starts. So we're talking first week in August. We'll probably come back with our regular content. Please click like, subscribe, leave a comment for myself and Pricey. We'll try and reply to you. If there's anything else to react to this summer, we'll certainly react to it. But I'm almost dead. It was Richarlison last week. It's Duncan Ferguson this week. This football club are going to be the death of me. Pricey, raise a drink to Duncan, the king, the king, the king. All the best, big man. We fucking love you.